Good morning, class. Let's continue with Act 1, Scene 1. It is page number 25 of your book. Let me start with the Scene 1. I'll not be reading the introduction, but I'll be starting with the speeches directly. It says here, Scene 1, Venice, a street. Enter Antonio, Salarino, and Salanio. Antonio, in sooth I know not why I am so sad. It wearies me. You say it wearies you. But how I caught it, found it, or came by it, what stuff it is made of, whereof it is born, I am to learn. And such a want with sadness makes of me, that I have much ado to know myself. Now see, the speeches are easy, but you'll have to make sure that you remember the punctuation marks according to the comma or these full stops. You'll have to stop, and that is what you need to remember. For example, in sooth, comma. Now there's a comma means you'll have to take a pause. It says here, in truth. I know not why I'm so sad. So Antonio is saying that he doesn't know the reason why he's so sad. It wearies me. This sadness is making me tired. You say it wearies you, and you are saying that you are tired of seeing me in this condition. But how I caught it means how I got the sadness, found it, how I found it, or came by it, and how I just came across it. What stuff it is made of, what stuff this sadness it is made of, whereof it is born, and where this sadness is born, I am to learn, means I am still to learn. And such a want with sadness makes of me. And this sadness, it is making me look like a dull fellow. Want wit, a dull fellow. That I have much ado to know myself. And because of that, because of this sadness, I'm having trouble in knowing myself. Ado means trouble. Salarino, your mind is tossing on the ocean. So your mind is actually connected or is where your ships are. There where your argosies with portly sail, there, at that place at sea, where your ships are sailing with the portly sails. Like Signier and rich burghers on the flood. Your ships, they are like the rich people, rich citizens, like gentlemen on the water. Or, as it were, or as if I would like to say, the pageants of the sea. Your ships are like the pageants of the sea, means like the decorated, most rich, beautiful ships on the sea. Do overpeer the petty traffickers, and your ships they overlook these small boats. Petty is small, traffickers small boats. That courtesy to them, do them reverence, as they fly by them with their woven wings. And these small ships, they bow, they show courtesy to your big ships, as your big ships fly between them, or they fly by them with their woven wings. Salanio, believe me, sir, had I such venture forth. Salanio, okay, now Salanio is talking to Antonio. He says here, believe me, sir, if I had such kind of a business abroad, the better part of my affections would be with my hopes abroad. Then most of my concerns would have been with my hopes abroad, with my ships abroad. I should be still plucking the grass. Then, right now I should be sitting and plucking the grass to know where sits the wind, to know the direction of the wind, peering in maps for ports and piers and roads. And even, if my ships were abroad, then I would have been sitting here looking into the map for ports and piers and roads and every object that might make me fear of. And I will when I'll be looking in the map, I'll be looking for every minute detail that might cause trouble or misfortune to my ships, that might make me fear misfortune to my ventures. Out of doubt would make me sad. So even just by doubting that, it would make me sad. Salarino, my wind cooling my broth. So he says here, when I use my breath to cool my soup, broth is the soup here, would blow me to an egg, when I thought what harm a wind too great at sea might do. So he says here, when I'm cooling my broth, that breath can actually cool such a hot soup. So what happens is that gives me shivers, that makes me tremble, even the thought of what a great wind can actually do at sea. I should not see the Asante hourglass run, but I should think of shallows and flats. So he says here, when I see or when I look at the sandy hourglass run, hourglasses were used to tell time. So he says here, when I see the falling sand, what happens is that sand reminds me of shallow waters, of flats, and that again makes me shiver. Why? Because these places like flats or shallow places, what happens is when the ships they enter there, they get stuck and they turn upside down. So it is again a kind of a place where the ships might get wrecked. So he says here, and see my wealthy Andrew docked in sand. So he says here, when I think of these sandbanks or these flats, I imagine that my ship, again, Andrew is an imaginative name for the ship here. So he says here that my imaginary ship, Andrew, is stuck in sand and veiling her high top lower than her ribs to kiss her burial. And the ship is upside down. The ribs are up and the main top is down. It is stuck in the sand, finally buried in the sand. Should I go to church and see the holy edifice of stone? So he says here, when I go to the church, what happens is, and I see this huge building, that's the church, made of stones or rocks, and not bethink me straight of dangerous rocks. It makes me think of the dangerous rocks at sea. So when he goes to the church, he looks at the rocks or the stones, he directly thinks of what? Rocks at sea, which touching but my gentle vessel's side. So when these rocks will touch the sides of my ships, what will happen? It would scatter all her spices on the stream. Then all my spices that are there in the ship will be scattered on the water, enrobing the roaring waters with silk. And even the waters, the flood, it will be covered with my expensive silk. And in a word, but even now worth this and now worth nothing. So he says here, and in a word, I can say that things that were worthy right now are now of no use, are not at all worthy anymore. Shall I have the thought to think on this? So he says here, when I can have such kind of thoughts to think about it, and shall I lack the thought that such a thing bechanced would make me sad? So he says here, okay, just see, mark it, it's 38 and 9 in front of it. If I can imagine that such a thing can happen, then will I not have the imagination to picture the pain and misery that such a disaster will cause me? So he says here, when I can imagine that these bad things can happen, then I too have such a strong imagination that I can imagine or feel the pain and suffering because of these dangers. Then he says here, but tell not me, and I know Antonio is sad to think upon his merchandise. So he says here, oh, you don't have to tell me, but I already know that Antonio is sad because of his merchandise. Okay, see, merchandise means we're talking about his ships. Antonio, believe me, No. So he says, I want you to believe me. No. I'm not sad because of my ships. I thank my fortune for it. So he says here, I would really thank my luck for that. My ventures are not in one bottom trusted. So he says here, see, listen, my ships or my work or my merchandise, they're not in one bottom trusted. They're not in one ship, nor to one place, nor is my whole state upon the fortune of this present year. So he says here, see, it's not that I just have one ship and all my luck depends upon that one ship. No, I have different ships. So I'm not at all worried about my financial condition right now. Therefore, my merchandise makes me not sad. So he says here, therefore, I'm not sad because of my ships. Salarino, why? Then you are in love. So he says here, okay, if you're not worried about your financial status, then I'm sure you're sad because you are in love. Antonio, five. So Antonio says here, five means shame. So he says here, oh, that's a shame. Please, I'm not in love, right? Salarino, not in love neither. Then let us say you're sad because you're not married. So he says here, okay then, if you are not sad because of love, then let us say that you are sad because you are not happy. It were as easy for you to laugh and leave and say you're merry because you're not sad. Then he says here, it is so easy for you to jump and say that you are not sad because you're happy. Now, by two-headed Janus, now this is what you need to remember in the context 52. Circle it, mark it. Janus was a Roman god of doors with two faces, one frowning and one smiling. One head looked inward, the other looked out. He is referred to here to indicate that nature created two different types of men with different outlook. Now here, Salarino is saying that I believe nature has framed different types of men, and few were the ones who were always smiling and laughing and giggling, and the other ones, who were always sad. And that is why he refers it to Janus. Janus is a Roman god of doors. Remember that, right? One of his faces is always smiling and one of his faces is always sad. Okay, then he says here, now by two-headed Janus. Of course, Janus has got two heads. That is why he says here, I swear by two-headed Janus. Nature had framed strange fellows in her time. Nature has actually made strange people in her time. Some that will evermore peep through their eyes. Some people who permanently peep through their eyes. When they laugh, their eyes close. So when they have these closed eyes, it seems as if they're peeping through their eyes. And laugh like parrots at a bagpiper. And these people are so foolish that they laugh like parrots, even at the sound of a bagpiper. Okay, now bagpiper's sound is really annoying. It's very shrilling. So that is what people think. That, of course, only a foolish person or a fool would laugh at the sound of a bagpiper. Mark it right in front of it. 55. Bagpipe, a musical instrument carried around the neck and is blown into with the mouth. Common in Scotland. Of course, it is actually very common in Scotland. Then C55 laughed even at a bagpiper as foolishly as a parrot laughs at anything. Indulge in shrill scream of laughter at everything. So there are people, they laugh like parrots, right? Let's see the second type of people. And other of such vinegar aspect. Now the other kind of people, they have the sour expression. Vinegar is sour, right? Sour kind of expression, that they will not show their teeth in way of smile, that they will never laugh, they'll never smile, they will never show their teeth. So he says here, though Nestor swear the jest be laughable, even if Nestor swears that the joke is laughable. So he says here, nature has framed two types of people. First, who are always laughing and giggling like, foolish, and they laugh like parrots, always laughing at every small detail, everything. And the other are of sour expression. These people, they never laugh. They'll not even show their teeth, they'll not even smile. Even if Nestor is a person, right? I'll let you know who. Even if Nestor swears, even if Nestor says that this joke is laughable. Now, Nestor was an old and a wise Greek general. Mark it, it is given right in front of it, 58. He was an old and a wise Greek general who fought in the Trojan War. A joke had to be extremely funny to make Nestor laugh at it. Right? That means Nestor was also a kind of a vinegar aspect kind of a man, but still, if the joke was laughable, he would laugh. Enter Bassanio, Lorenzo, and Crescenio. When these three were talking to each other, they are in the street of Venice. They are not in a house or a place as such. They are in the street of Venice. Who enters in the scene? Bassanio, Lorenzo, and Crescenio. Okay, Salanio. Here comes Bassanio, your most noble kinsman. Crescenio and Lorenzo. Very well, we leave you now with a better company. So Salanio says, oh, here comes Bassanio, your most noble kinsman. Kinsman is a friend or maybe a relative, very close. Crescenio and Lorenzo, very well, means goodbye. We leave you now with better company. So we are now leaving Antonio in a better company of Bassanio, Lorenzo, and Crescenio. Okay, and Salarino. I would have stayed till I had made you merry. So he says here, Salarino, I wish I could have stayed till I had made you happy, if worthier friends had not prevented me. If your, important friends had not prevented me from doing so. Antonio, your worth is very dear in my regard. So he says here, they're not worthier, even you are worthier. Even your worth is very dear in my regard, in my esteem. I take it, but I will consider that your own business calls on you. Means, of course, you have some work that you need to do, and you embrace the occasion to depart, and you take this opportunity to leave. Salarino, good morrow, my good lords. So, Bassanio, good morrows means good morning. So, he's saying good morning to Bassanio, Lorenzo, and Crescenio. Okay, Bassanio, good signals both. When shall we laugh? So, he says here, good morning, gentlemen, both of you. When shall we laugh? When are we going to sit together and have party? Say when. You grow exceeding strange. So he says here, please tell me, when can we all sit together, laugh, and have fun? You are actually becoming strangers now. Must it be so? Is it necessary that you should become strangers? Salarino, we will make a leisure to attend on yours. So he says here, yes, of course, we'll make sure whenever we are free, we will come and meet you. Exeunt Salarino and Salanio. So finally, they both leave the scene. They move out of the scene. Lorenzo, my lord Bassanio, since you have found Antonio, we too will leave you. Now Lorenzo and Crescenio are telling this to Bassanio, that since you have found Antonio, we will leave you here. But at dinner time, I request you, I pray you. Okay, remember, you will get this phrase again and again, I pray you. I pray you means I request you. So he says here, I request you, have in mind, remember, where we must meet. So Lorenzo says here to Bassanio that now that you have found Antonio, we will leave you with Antonio. And please do remember where you have to meet us for dinner. So that is it for today. From page number 29, I will start or I'll continue in my next video. Okay, so please go through it. The best you can do is read it here, go through the context, and please make it a habit of reading it daily. So that is it for today. Thank you.